Gene Codes, Session 12. The 7 Paradigm Worldviews. This is by far the most challenging for me. In fact, it stayed at the bottom of the list for such a long time. I actually wanted to skip it today as well. But I said eventually you have to go into this because it's part of the Gene Codes panorama. It's part of this plethora of many different ways of looking at human nature and looking at humanity and trying to get a glimpse of how we are, why we are the way we are, and hopefully somewhere along the line, I don't know, either through revelation or through science, I don't know, something eventually will need to come out that will help us understand fundamentally where all this comes from. Where do all these codes come from? Who organized them? After 20 years, there's no way that I can sit comfortably with the idea to say that, well, it just all happened accidentally. It's all because the argument is what you're observing is the end result of an accidental crashing of chemicals and physical atoms. I don't know. It just doesn't ring with me. It doesn't ring with me at all. I think eventually we will have an understanding of all of these different gene codes that I have been presenting over many, many sessions and many, many more to go, because each one of these breaks down into the individual parts. Now, this is one of the challenging ones. 7 paradigm worldviews. I discovered this through Daniel Sheehan. And Daniel Sheehan is, in my opinion, the greatest lawyer in American history. I mean, he's really dedicated to defending the public and defending the Constitution of the United States. But this is completely different. I mean, we're talking about jurisprudence on one end and then, paradigm worldviews, concepts of human nature, personality, typologies, and things of that nature on the other end. So the thing is that Daniel Sheehan, being a really top-notch lawyer, he has a particular way of viewing things, and he has a particular way of digging into, let's say, the evidence, and he has a particular way of presenting, because he's also someone, I think he's building a school. I think he's building a school to deal with these issues. And so he's also, let's say, a professor. Now, he came across these paradigm worldviews. Now, what are these paradigm worldviews? These paradigm worldviews are basically worldviews. It's how people view the world politically, religiously, spiritually, economically, emotionally, just the many different ways that people view the world. But what Daniel Sheehan, over time, now he learned it from another professor who taught him. I don't remember his name, but this other professor had presented 5 paradigm worldviews. And through observation, through intense study, and through his own curiosity, Daniel Sheehan then discovered that there were actually 7. And now he is taking that concept even further to say that an 8th paradigm worldview is forming. Now, he goes into all kinds of, I don't even remember how it's called, teleology, or, all kinds of different subjects to determine which worldview a person belongs to. I think there were 4 categories which offered you questions, and depending upon how you responded to those questions, you would then fall into one of these 7 categories, one of these 7 paradigm worldviews. Now, I have not gone into depth. He has not written an in-depth book on this, or he's done a few seminars, and they're on YouTube and they're out there. He used to have a website, and fortunately for me, I downloaded. I grabbed this website and I downloaded it, and so I have it offline, where he described and went into these. But that website is no longer around. I think maybe it's because hopefully he's preparing to release some book. I don't know. I don't know why it's not there. But the paradigm worldviews okay, are something innate in people. And Daniel Sheehan came across this because he said, as a lawyer, you have to understand debate. And as a lawyer, maybe with your lawyer friends or with your friends or whoever, the people that you come across, he said he noticed that people were rigidly attached to a particular political ideology, right? And no matter how he tried to put forth a different perspective or challenge that perspective, the other people, even though they may have seen his point of view, they wouldn't change. And then he realized, well, he himself wouldn't change either. And so that's when he came to the idea or the conclusion that these must be inherent within people. So he looked further and he looked further. Now, as I said, he went in, he's got 4 different ways to help him understand which worldview pertains to a particular person. And I found that very difficult because it is very academic. It's very intellectual. But one of the ways that he reduces it down so that it becomes more comprehensible to the layperson is that these 7 paradigm worldviews influence, as I said previously, our religiosity, our spirituality, the way that we approach different belief systems. And one of them is the political system. So I've latched on to this because it is the easiest, because he says that in the 7 paradigm worldviews, you have 7 distinct political views. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because he says on the one end of the spectrum, because he looks at it as a spectrum from left to right. I mean, politically, we're always talking about left and right. And so on the one side, you have the authoritarians. Here we're starting on the right side, right? You have the authoritarians, the extreme right. And then you have the reactionaries. And then you have, I believe it's the conservatives. Then what you have in the middle is you have the moderates. Then you start leaning towards the left, and then you have the left wing. And so you go into the left, and then you have the liberals, which is just off to the side to the moderates. Beyond the liberals, as you go into more of the left, you have the progressives. And then you go into the extreme left, and you have the utopianists. So he provided this spectrum of political worldviews that also goes into these 7 paradigm worldviews. And this helped me a lot because I said, okay, I can wrestle with this. I know what authoritarians are like. I know what reactionaries are like. We talk about conservatives and moderates and liberals. These are things that in the political spectrum, you hear these terms all the time. But one of the things that helped me to kind of step back is to say, okay, Daniel Sheehan is proposing the idea that these are, in my language, gene codes. So in other words, if I can at least understand these different political worldviews, then, because this is exactly what he did as well. When he understood this, he said, okay, I'm a progressive. I'm always going to have a progressive stance. Now, if I can learn more about the other systems, the other paradigms, then my dialogue can change if I'm dealing with a conservative, or if I'm dealing with a moderate, or if I'm talking to a utopianist. And it's the same thing for me when I said in the past, one of the nice things about the 7 life energies, and it's interesting that we're back to the number 7, and I'll get into that in just a second. With the 7 life energies, one of the things that helped me was the idea that, okay, I know how I am. I know that I'm a dynamic assertive. And so if I'm speaking to a creative assertive, then there's going to be a different exchange. I know my way of thinking, and I know the way of thinking of the person who's in front of me, and that alters it. It influences it. And so this is the same concept here. You have 7 paradigm worldviews. When you get into an interaction and a dialogue with other people who have a different worldview than you do, then it helps if you are conscious, if you are aware that your worldview is something that is inherently yours. It's in your genetics. It's in your code. It's in your soul. It's what you will be practically all of your life. Unless, of course, you've been so strongly influenced by, a political family, or you're in a, you have parents who raised you to have a certain ideology, and so you hide your real ideology underneath. And then one day maybe it comes out, maybe it doesn't. But the paradigm worldview that you most orient yourself towards helps you understand how you think about certain things, whether it's politics, religiosity, economics, and it helps you to understand the other person, what the other person is expressing. So the 7 paradigm world views, and this is where Daniel Sheehan took it beyond, when he started to study esotericism, he found a correlation between the chakra system and the 7 paradigm worldviews. So your base chakra, your first chakra, is the authoritarian worldview. The second chakra is the reactionary worldview. The third chakra is the conservative worldview. The fourth chakra is the moderate worldview. The fifth chakra, liberal. Sixth chakra, progressive. Seventh chakra, utopianist. And what he proposes now is that an 8th chakra is in the process of being formed, and it begins a new tier. It's actually, the 8th chakra is actually the first chakra of a new way of being. And then he correlates this into aliens, extraterrestrials, and I mean, it really goes deep. That's why I said this is a challenge to tackle here and listen, maybe because I'm ending in this way and you're saying, oh my God, now we've gone from paradigm worldviews, the greatest lawyer in American history, all these amazing credentials. I mean, he's, and now we're ending with aliens. Yes, because I believe that that's where we're going to get a lot of our answers, through revelation. Maybe some through science, but I think more so, I think it's going to come first from revelation. So these are the 7 paradigm worldviews. This is Gene Codes, session 12. I hope that you enjoyed. I'm personally glad I got this out of the way. I don't know when I'll get back to this because I personally still have to study it. I personally still have to study it and get grounded on what these worldviews are and how to interact. Now, I'm not in a very political environment. My family is not we don't sit here and talk about politics, but I do listen to a lot of programs. I have a lot of people that I listen to who have political views, and I'm starting to be able to sift through and see who's liberal, who's conservative, who's progressive, and it's interesting because I want to fine tune this. I need to fine tune this because we live in a very political world, and so we have to understand politics, and we just simply have to understand politics, and we have to learn as humanity how to be able to sit down at the table and share worldviews and understand that not everyone's going to have the same worldview. Listen, always a pleasure, especially with Gene Codes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the support, getting a lot of support for these SmartCasts, and we will catch up soon with another SmartCast. Don't know when the Gene Codes come back around again, but we'll definitely have some SmartCasts coming to you one after the other. Okay? Thanks again.